Well, hello, everybody. Let's get into it. All right, how's everyone doing? Welcome to the live stream. Gotten 2 live streams in this week. This was more kind of random. I don't know if any of you guys saw the market brief last night, but we posted that one into the Patreon. I didn't post it on YouTube. I didn't feel like making a thumbnail. All right, let's take a look at markets. Happy Friday. What's up, Matt? What's up, Kyle? What's up, Gainer? Good morning, Tony and Henry. Welcome in. All right, let's take a quick look here at markets, get a good idea of what's going on. We'll take a look at random stocks too as well. If you want me to pull up individual tickers, you can put them into the chat and we'll go from there. We're going to start off looking at market net flow for the trading session. And it's been bullish divergence for the majority of the day. However, we did start to lose convergence and they're both above that 0 line here. And we've really just been kind of seeing chop. So not an incredible edge as it stands right now. What I'd like to see for more of a bullish type scenario within the various areas of the market is the red line to come down and the green line to continue to stay up and this to turn back to green. Okay, lots of chop, people, lots of chop. Let's take a look at some 0-date levels on the S&P 500. The big one in focus is 5450 and we have 5500. So 5450 is basically where we've been floating around all day. That's the put wall for the 0-date levels. Okay, we're holding above it at this current moment. The 5500 level is right up here. I think it's still possible that we still try to make some sort of a run. There's a lot of volatility packed into today's trading session, so I think we got to be open for really any scenario here. And I'll kind of go over, what I mean by that. If I go into the trade tab and we look at the current expected move for the day, it's still a 3.85, and this is after data came out already, right? We had consumer sentiment, PCE, personal income, personal spending, just a bunch of different macro data, and we're sitting here, we still have a $3.85 expected move on the trading session. So as it stands, get that out of the way. So as it stands right now, Qs, right, we're just chop bucking it around. We saw try to go for it, it got reverted. Try to go for it, and even here, like you can see, we pulled into the morning, saw a nice move up, then it faded, and you could see that these these highs and these lows, they're actually expanding. So it's getting very volatile, very choppy, very hard to read type of price action. We have the price coming down a little bit here, kind of getting tight, but overall just kind of in this sideways trend, holding that 5450. I want to go into the expected move for SPY for the week. And you can see today we did tag in, which today was a large daily expected move. We came into that level today and we've been kind of just bumping our head in and around that level. Like I said, it's very common to just play around the weekly expected move. So if price pulls just right back down, honestly, I wouldn't trade for that or trade for that. This right now is more of just kind of a pause for me personally, unless we get some very clear movement on market net flow. But right now we're just doodling around the upper daily expected move, and that daily expected move is crazy. This thing was $5.17 and we came, boom, right up to it, right? Look at Qs. So Qs is obviously the one that's more relative weakness. Qs is having a hard time today reclaiming the swing low anchored volume weighted average price for July. and recently, right? So right here, we gapped up into it. We couldn't close above it. We tried to get above it, right? We tried to get above it, try to get above it, try to get above it, try to get above it. But we've gotten rejected every single time at this anchor volume weighted average price. So my thought is if we can get above that, that opens the door to come back to the weekly expected move, upper daily expected move for the day. But as it stands in this moment, tech is the laggard, right? We're up 0.70 basis points on the day. Floating around that week, the month to date, lower expected move. So I'd be watching to see if we can potentially break that, right? And actually close above it, because we haven't closed above it yet. See? Push back down, try to go, push back down, push back down, push back down. I'm actually kind of curious where the anchor view up is from this swing low. Yeah, and that actually coincides with this little prior swing high anchored volume weighted average price, which was the lower high. Okay, so yeah, getting above this little area would be kind of, in my opinion, more critical level to watch there for the Qs. Now, IWM saw some relative strength today, but since has came off back into the weekly expected move. So we saw a nice strong move. Boom, it's been faded. But really, it's just kind of consolidating, pulling back in. And I liked IWM on my last live stream. I think it was on Monday. I'll show you the setup. It was right here. And the candle, obviously, the candle didn't look like this at the time. The candle... Come on. This day right here in particularly was when we live streamed. And the day was, it was an inside trading candle. We said basically, if it breaks the high of the prior day or the high of that day specifically, which was around the same area, you can go long and then have a stop at this low. So if you manage to trade that, and we said basically the target would be up into this range right here, right? This high and this high. And we came in there, we tagged it. If you're in the trade, I would just consider updating stops and or taking partial profits, just managing risk as you see fit. But right now that was a pretty good follow through. And now we're just seeing a little bit of a pullback with small caps. As far as the 11 sectors that make up the S&P 500, we have financials leading the way. And financials really did just pull back into this prior breakout area. So one way to approach this is looking at something like XLF or individual names, but there's also FAS, right? This is a 3X bullish fund, right? We broke out, we're back testing, we're seeing some follow through right there. Hey, good morning, Dajan. Morning, AA. Morning, Tony, FT. Yeah, we'll look at a couple of these names. Give me a second here. I think my green screen is peeking. No, it's this way. There we go. Okay. Yeah, we can take a look at the Dow. I'll just look at DIA, which is the diamonds. So the Dow Jones, pretty similar to look to the financials, right? It's just, we broke out, we pulled back in, and we're seeing a little bit of a move higher today as a continuation. What we're seeing the problem here or in the markets right now that's really kind of holding things back is obviously tech stocks, all right? There's been a huge rotation out of tech into small caps, into various other names. If we go to the market watch tab, and look at our heat map for the S&P 500, we see a lot of green on the screen. Now, this looks completely different if you look at it at a week to date, obviously, perspective, right? I think I can pull that up actually. All right. So here's the week to date, right? So you're seeing a lot of the red in the large market cap names, tech, right? So you had Google report that's down 6% on the week. You have also Tesla that reported that's down pretty significantly too. And then coming into next week, we have quite a bit on the earnings schedule too as well. We'll talk about that more when they come a little bit closer, but we're in the heat of the big earnings. Now, if we take a look at the index watch and look at the S&P 100 today, we're pretty much fully correlated to the upside. 84 advancing names, 17 declining names. And this is the bounce that, you know, I was kind of talking about, but more specifically, more interested to see if tech can get some, you know, a little bit of a relief from its current move. So if I pull up Qs, Qs is seeing a little bit of a bounce, but it's really just an inside trading day. So not really much to get too excited about. Yesterday, we saw a nice bounce, but it reverted. And we're still seeing, we're still in the midst of pretty high volatility. So as it stands right now, yeah, we're up 71 basis points, but we're really just kind of just chopping around. And every time we get a little bit nice of a squeeze, the sellers come back in and kind of knock it. So my kind of thought here is keeping just that close eye on market net flow, and we're still gray, right? So it's not a clear signal here either way you look at it. So I'd be more hesitant than anything at this current moment. Okay, we'll take a look at some of these random names. You can just keep dropping them in the chat, and we'll get to those here momentarily. Wanted to dive into some of the individual tech stocks. Here we go. Okay, so Microsoft was one that I was eyeing for a little bit of a bounce because of just how nasty the last 2 days of selling was. And we are seeing a little bit of a bounce here. Does it have more gas in the tank? Potentially. Microsoft has been holding up rather well today versus most of the other names in the NASDAQ 100, or not NASDAQ 100, but the large mega cap names. This one's up 1.2% on the trading session, which is one of the largest market cap names. And then all the other ones, right, other than Meta, right? Meta is coming off. Meta hasn't really moved today much, but it started with a decent sized gap up. But this is coming off of some significant selling after a little bit of a bounce too. So Microsoft is seeing a pretty decent size move, and it's been holding up rather well. NVIDIA, right? This is really, I think, what's kind of dragging the market here. So NVIDIA started the day pretty darn strong, and same with the Qs and everything. But since then, we've just been kind of fading lower with this specific name. We're talking like we came from 116 down to 112. Now, are we going to potentially turn this back around? What you want to wait for is a higher low. So for example, that could be potentially a higher low being set, who knows? But then you want to see a higher high too. So we break the high, and you get a series of that kind of stuff taking place, which could in return show us that, hey, if NVIDIA starts coming back to life, this could be actually a pretty good sign for the Qs. Apple has also been kind of just bottoming out over here, basing, right? But still off the highs of the trading session. Not by much, but it is up 26 basis points on the day. Okay. Amazon's up about 1%, but also you can see here, it's been chopping around, right? So not much of a trend going on across the board. And this right here is telling us kind of why that there's not much of a trend, right? There's really no, convergence between the cumulative net premiums for calls and puts. All right. Let's take a look at a couple more things here as I sip my coffee in the morning. Okay, so how are the bond market, how are yields, bonds doing after getting this data? 10-year yield is actually down 1.2%. So you have a falling 10-year yield, and we've shown correlations with this many times, right? So falling yield, let's see now what's oil up to. Is oil off to? Oil's off 2.45%. Those do move pretty close hand in hand. So is energy down too, or is it flat on the trading session? Energy is down on the trading session, and is it the worst sector? Let's take a look. Energy is the worst performing sector out of the 11 sectors that make up the S&P 500 today. So it is, that correlation's holding here. Let's see the dollar. The dollar's down on the trading session, but not by much, right? So a falling dollar, falling yield has been, that we've seen, pretty darn bullish for markets when those two things happen. Now correlations, they come, they go, they change, right? But that still is still seemingly a pretty known correlation in the market. And if I go, actually, I can show you SPX to long-term yields, the correlation between both 10 and 30 days. You can see the zero line right here, right? If you're below that, it means you have a negative correlation. We're looking at a 10-day correlation and a 30-day correlation. You see they're both negative, meaning that if long-term treasury yields fall, it's typical to see the S&P 500 rise, right, on these correlated states. It doesn't happen to happen day by day or, like that perfectly, but that is kind of what we are seeing. Okay, let's take a look. A couple other commodities here. We'll take a look at gold. Gold took a big hit yesterday, but that has since recovered quite a bit. I was in a, I still actually am. I still have some position in there. DUST position, and I'm up. I was up, I think 10% or so when I took my first 50% off. And I don't even think I think I was considering just removing some of it again yesterday, but if I remember correctly, I did not do that. I think I was just holding on to it, the remainder 50%. It's a smaller position. I wanted to see if we can get some further downside. So I'm still in my short miners position, but I've already claimed 50% profit. Not a 50% gain, but I took 50% of my position off at a 10% profit. So I'm kind of just letting the rest go and seeing what happens. And then I'll put my stop at that break-even marker, which I think is it right around here? I think it was right around there. I'd have to double check. Okay, let's take a look at silver. What's silver up to? There's a strong correlation there. So this is another interesting thing. So miners are up, silver's down on the trading session. There is a very strong correlation between miners and silver. So silver came off pretty hard, and that correlation between the two is strong. Actually, I'll show you the chart. This is kind of what kicked off the trade in the first place. Let me see if I have it here. Yeah, I got it. Actually, the correlation's starting to change here. Okay, so here's the chart that I went over on that initial kind of walkthrough of that trade idea. Let me make this smaller. You have silver up here, you have gold miners here, and this is the correlated state, just a 20-day correlation. And what do you notice? Almost never here, at least on this chart, you have a negative correlation. It's like always positive, and it's almost like a very strong positive correlation between the two. And that right there, we were up here when we were talking about it, or, right around here on gold miners. And then I noticed that silver wasn't putting in a higher high. And you go back through history and you're like, wow, silver actually put in a lower high here, while the miners did the same thing. And both times they reverted right to the downside. And what are we seeing? We're seeing it revert back down to the downside, catching downside. So this is kind of where that trade idea came from. That correlated state. And then there's also another element to this, the bullish percent index, right? So the BP GDM, and the BP GDM is the bullish percent index for the gold miners. And this is the weekly time frame for it. Okay, the weekly time frame, it's still in overbought conditions. And it has a negative divergence on the RSI. And it's a pretty extended reading at 90. So that's kind of where my thought is. I'm like, maybe I should just hold this and just see what happens and see if it eventually comes back down into an oversold territory, or maybe cross back under 50. And because if you look through history, right, we talked about this bullish divergence when it was happening at these lows, and that led to a nice rally. We talked about it at these highs, this negative divergence, right? And it sold off pretty darn crazy, right? From 40 down to 20-ish and some change. So I wanted to see, I think commodities in themselves, they look pretty darn bullish, right? They've been pretty bullish, but perhaps there could be subtle changes taking place. Yeah. Another commodity that's been getting cracked has been copper. And copper just came into and around its 200-day moving average. We're talking multiple days of sell-side activity in a row. And this thing is just like deflating after this. What a parabolic rise there in the price of copper. Just a huge rate of change to the upside. And this thing completely fell flat back down on its face. Probably due for some sort of a bounce in the near term. And if that is the case, there's Chinese stocks that correlate very well to copper. So you can potentially look into some, Chinese equities, right? Pinduoduo is one that I'm watching. You have your price actions right here at this low again. This is a wedging type pattern. So if, I don't know, perhaps if I don't know how strong the correlation is with copper and stuff like that to this one specifically, but just this from an absolute perspective, right? You have the RSI low here, you have a little bit higher low here, you have a lower low here. It's right at the 200-day, right? See maybe a bounce here. Yeah, that could very well potentially happen. And then the risk is what? If it crosses the low of today's trading session, get out, right? So what does that mean? It's like a very, 1% loss, 1.5% or 2% or something like that. Small position. And then you could wait. If it goes up and if it actually does start breaking out, you can always add. So yeah, Pinduoduo, I don't know what Baba's been up to. Look at Baba's same setup. Look at this thing like kind of just, getting wedged right here. That's pretty tight price action, and the 20 days turning up. It's on a declining 200-day, declining 50-day. So you're going up against a trend a little bit. Another one that's a random one that was in the tight list this week was Luckin Coffee, LCKN. I don't know the ticker. Dang it. Luckin Coffee, LKNCY. Luckin Coffee was on the tight list this week. And look at this wedge pattern. It broke out on Monday, and now it's just been kind of consolidating. Now you do have earnings around the corner, and I don't know what that's going to look like, right? So I don't like just jumping into that kind of stuff unless if I feel pretty confident on a trade, I'll have a position. But like for example, VLTO, right? That was one that I put into trade ideas. I knew that the earnings were coming around the corner. I felt comfortable in this sector to have at least a small position on. I didn't trade it like with Pfizer or anything like that, but VLTO was nice little consolidation here, and we broke out today on earnings pretty nicely there. FXI, this is the China ETF here, also kind of just wedging, getting pretty tight. So yeah, maybe, I mean, as you can see, like this came, so just take a look at FXI, right? So you go on this parabolic rise, dumped off, saw a bounce, pulled back in. Okay, now look at this, and then look at copper. Went on a parabolic rise, dumped out, bounced, and came back in. So you see what I'm saying? Like these ones, they tend to have somewhat of a decent correlation, and obviously copper is incredibly important to the Chinese economy. And perhaps if we can get a little bit of relief here, maybe we see, a little move in some China stocks. That's the thought. Okay, let's take a quick look at the markets here. We did go to green convergence. The red line did start crossing down through zero. It's kind of wobbling in and around that area. You can see that we actually are kind of holding that weekly expected move, seeing a little bit of a bounce from there. Retesting this anchor VWAP from the swing high and seeing how price action is around there. That would make sense on the IWM, but let's take a look at SPY and Q. SPY is back there at the upper daily expected move. I mean, this can potentially make a move as long as we can hold this convergence, right? And we can actually get a lot more relief. Now you can see the Qs, what are we doing? We have about 4 minutes left to close above this. Now, we haven't yet above these anchor VWAPs. We've tried for it. We tried for it, we missed. 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 And now we're kind of back trying for it again. Are we going to make it? We're going to miss it. All right, but a close above that would be obviously substantially different than what we've seen. So perhaps that kind of ignites something. Might not. Might come right back in for all we know, but that would be at least a change in character, right? But we still got 4 minutes here, 3.5 or so left. Let's take a look at the chat here. I know people have been chatting. I just been kind of doing my thing. Yeah, Hoover's saying, I don't know why anybody would short into today. Yeah, today would, or even going into tomorrow, going into yesterday, going into yesterday's close, like why anybody would short, or like a new short position into selling. It's like pretty darn dangerous, right? You can very well get follow through, but after a strong sell off, you'd be considered shorting in the hole. So, take a sip of my coffee. Okay, bringing up my notepad. I'm gonna write down these tickers that we got going on here in the chat. NOC, we got Tesla. Pfizer. CRWD. NVIDIA. PLTR. Okay. We got AMD. VKTX. DKNG. Oh, I haven't seen that one for a minute, actually. Got Microsoft. We went there. SMCI. Okay. Coin. Oh, yeah. I want to take a look at, obviously, Bitcoin and stuff. Steve King is saying, everyone is in denial. All YouTubers are calling a bull market. Really? Jeez, the other day I looked at YouTube and everyone was saying crash. That's why my video was titled, Warning, you're about to get flooded with crash videos. And what have we done since then? Nothing. We've went sideways. So far, at least. Okay, maybe they are calling for a bull market. Maybe it's just the ones that I'm seeing. There's so many stock YouTubes, so. Oh, I saw a little heart come in. Thanks everyone for liking the stream. It's important. It helps it get out to some more people. Like, comment. It helps out. I don't know how you like this stream, but like I think you press the either I think there's a heart button and or there's like a like button. I really don't know how that works. Okay, so I got those. Okay, China also started stimulus programs, and remember what happens in America. Oh, that's interesting. The China stimulus programs. I have to look into that. So yeah, coin and Bitcoin will do. Everyone what Bitcoin? Bitcoin signal. Yeah, I'll go over the Sailor to Shift tool. It is on a buy signal. We talked about that on one of the prior videos when it did flip. But I kind of went over. Okay, we did close, by the way, above that anchored volume weighted average price. So that's a change in character there. We got MU. MU I tried to trade. I was unsuccessful at a trade, but it was a small. I'll go over it later. Mara CLSK. Wheat. Sox. Guild. Rivian. CCL. ECL. I saw like six or so crash videos. Yeah, that's quite a bit to be on one single person's feed, I think. I feel like that's kind of what I saw. I just kind of back and forth of them. Oh, the hearts in the chat. Oh, okay, so hearts in the chat. I think that's what helps. So like buttons on the YouTube. Thanks, thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks, Larry. Appreciate it. And we do got SMCI. We got VST. So we're getting a list here, people. We got Apple. Okay. All right. I see you. I see you, everybody. Hey, there we go. I see little hearts floating. See, there's something working. I guess you can be pressing. You see a little floats. They like float on my screen. That's so funny. All right. Thanks for the love. Me, Kevin's calling it a crash. I don't know if they necessarily believe that. I guess I would have to watch the content. I don't know if they actually believe that. I think it might just be a play into the fear because it gets a little bit more attention and eyes. Kind of similar to what I did, but I changed it. Instead of saying like crash is happening, crash is here, I said I used stock market crash as the key word or whatever, but it was positioned in a way that it was different, right? Because yeah, we can have a crash, but also we're really following the script, people. If you didn't watch last night's brief, it wasn't on YouTube, right? It was in the Patreon for both free and paid. But this is July, right? We're in July. So here is July. This blue line is the S&P 500 election year seasonality. Okay, the blue line. What do you notice here? It's literally matching the script almost perfectly. You have a high in July, and then it sells off, and then we rip back. Now, I don't know if the script is gonna match the same, but what I do know is that's matching right now. You get weakness into the July, into the end. It might not be here, right? We still have time left. It could be, we could have weakness all the way into, July. I feel like we're basically here at the end of the month. So, but then you get some sort of a little bit of a bounce, and it's not till September, October where we see a little bit more weakness. And look at that weakness. That weakness outtakes the lows of July. So this stream is all about like, or can we potentially find, I'll put Adobe in there too. Can we find a potential area for a bounce? And I mean, I think so, right? The Qs, look at this. So you see that? Cool, right? We closed above it. We started pushing a little bit higher. Don't get overly too excited, people. It is what right? Don't get too excited. All right, this is overall, we've been going sideways. We're in still a downtrend. You got to treat all this stuff as a bounce in a downtrend. Until we can get back above a rising 5-day move, not even rising, it could just be flattening out to turning up and price action kind of, see a series of higher highs and higher lows. But, these anchor volume weighted average prices, right? There's so much volume that's traded in here. You got to understand, like, you break from it, cool, awesome. And we might have a clean break, go woohoo. But it's also very common that you pull right back in and you doodle around in those areas, okay? Let's take a look at market net flow for the day. We have that green convergence, right? The red line is picking up here back above 0. I'd like to see this turn back down, right? And the green line to continue up and just give us a powerful move. That would be great. That would be just grand, okay? SPYs yesterday, right? We almost filled that gap. It definitely looks different if you adjust for dividends. We didn't even come close to filling this gap, right? The gap, we actually came right back into this low if you adjust for dividends. All right, so this chart is not a this is, wait, is it unadjusted? I always get it confused. Give me a second. All right, we'll pull up these names in a moment here. SPY. Yes, so this Thinkorswim chart is unadjusted for dividends. Now I'll show you a chart what it looks like when you adjust for dividends, because people are like, why does your chart look different than mine? That doesn't make any sense. Well, let me show you. Let me show you the chart that I'm talking about. Right now, I will show you. Okay. Okay, I'm just zooming in, but you can see here. See that? We came into this prior swing low. We're seeing a little bit of a bounce back above the rising 50-day. So the gap is still there, And what does that mean? It doesn't, like, look at, we have gaps under us. We have a gap here and a gap here and a gap here, right? We have gaps beneath us. Gaps they frequently get closed, right? But if they do frequently get closed, I mean, we have one here, we have one here above us, right? So we can always fill these gaps. I think instead of worrying about like, is it gonna come fill it, is it not, is just knowing where the gap is, and when it does come to fill, if it does come to fill, those windows, when they close, they can act as potential levels of resistance and or support. Okay. All right, so I put a big list together of, oh my gosh. Did I just close out my list? Get the heck out of here. No, I didn't. Okay, there it is. Okay, so I gotta tell y'all this. This is pretty funny. Family Guy, the TV show. It's like a cartoon, for adults or whatever, or maybe kids too. I don't really know. It's kind of a Family Guy's. I guarantee you. I feel like everyone knows what that show is. Okay, if you don't, then you just don't watch TV probably. But Family Guy, there's the dad is Peter Griffin, and he has this funny laugh. He goes, "Hee," like that. And I started doing it around my kid just as a joke. Like I kept on going, "Hee," just to see if he'll start laughing. And now he's always doing the and he like forces laughs at things that aren't even funny. So he has this constant Peter Griffin laugh all the time. He was eating dinner. He was eating food today, and I like look over at my wife while she's feeding him, and he goes like that. She's like, "What have you done? What have you done?" I have some videos of it. I gotta share it. It's so funny. So funny. Okay, we're gonna pull up these names. Okay. Okay, so the first one we had over here, Dijan brought up NOC. Oh my gosh, dude. Dijan, are you still here in the chat? CJ, yeah, seriously though. Dijan, are you here? He posted early in the trading session out on Twitch, so yeah, he's been a NOC bull, and holy macaroni, dude. I was not expecting this when I pulled up the chart. Just so y'all people know, I'm not saying chase this by any means, but he's been pretty bullish on NOC, and we've been kind of tracking it, going back and forth. And earnings, dude, oh my goodness, this thing just rocketed right back to the highs of the year almost. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. He may not be in there anymore, but yeah, overall, I mean, I don't really have much technical analysis on this other than it's just kind of a range still. And then obviously we're getting some continuation from earnings, and that was pretty beast move, including today, up another 2.49%. That's, dude's probably feeling real good right now. What a move. Okay, Tesla was one of them that we pulled up. Tesla's outside of where its earnings move was, right? It was a big earnings expected move, and we're down there. Let me clear this drawing set now because they're not nearly as important. But overall, what do we see? We saw price action. Now, okay, so let me be clear. Somebody reached back out to me and said, hey, should I buy this earnings dip? The same thing happened on this earnings dip. Okay, and I talked about it here on a live session, like right when I said somebody like I bought the dip on Tesla, right? The problem with it is typically if you are in a trend trader, when the price action's already going down and then it gaps lower, like this, like you can get lucky and it could come up, but typically you get more continuation, right? Bearish peg, they call them, power earnings gap to the downside, so bearish peg. And you can see price action started floating up high, up higher. If you don't read charts, you might look at this and you'll be like, wow, it's actually, yeah, I was right, I was bullish. Or you look at charts, and we talked about this inverse head and shoulders, but how it can also be a potential bear flag. It broke down, okay, no surprise. Then we had these massive earnings gaps here. We had continuation of the earnings move, boom. We had news, boom. Okay, so nice follow through. Then you wait to see if it consolidates. So we looked at it here on this consolidation. We looked at it right here. We played the breakout. I got stopped out. And then we looked at it right over here. Okay, and we said now it's getting very tight. And this happened to be right at that year-to-date anchored volume weighted average price. In fact, I'll just pull up the chart on the daily time frame. Nyar, right nyar. You go to daily. Oh, this was the trade. I still have it on here. This was the trade. So you bought here at 183.95, stop at 177. That was the trade idea, I think, that we posted into the thing. Okay. So the year-to-date anchor volume weighted average price, you can see it was battling it, right? And we battled it multiple times, and then we get it very tight right under it. And we said there's always going to be typically a change in character in the price action if we do start to break. And when we broke, man, this thing squeezed up. Now it's coming back down. And if we get continued sell side, I'd be watching for a reconnect of the year-to-date anchored volume weighted average price. I don't like just buying a bearish move to the downside. I know that we can get a bounce. I know that it can go higher, especially after a move like this. But I'd rather just wait it out and see what price does. So if, for example, if it came down like this, and like started getting very tight and wedging right into the year-to-date anchored volume weighted average price, like that to me would be a better risk to reward. Or if you go long, like where's my stop going to be? Because I can pretty much like it would be right here, right? And it's like there's a pretty high probability that I get stopped out, right? Not always, but there's a high probability that I could. Or there's even a high probability that we gap through it and potentially see, something else happen. But now if price starts to drip back up, right, I would look to see how it shapes up here too, because it could just be a larger type kind of, flaggish, pennant, whatever, wedge, whatever you want to call it. But right now, in the midst of volatility, it's like, here's a coin, flip it up. You can be right, you can be wrong, right? It's pretty much it. Like, I just don't have the, I just don't have a good read on this specifically right now. Right, you can go into the 15-minute time frame, and you can play it shorter and tactical. Look at it and you can be like, well, okay, here's, it's in a range. If it breaks out of this range, maybe it'll double that range, right? That's a measured move. If it breaks down, maybe it'll double that range. So you can have like a 1-for-1 trade sort of thing. If we break out to the upside, boom. If we break down to the downside, boom. Maybe, all right. Yeah. I feel like there's better opportunities out there. Okay, that was Tesla. Let's go to Pfizer. Henry, just asked the question while I was doing it. That's funny. Okay. Pfizer. So Pfizer reported. This one was looking pretty good too. I think that's why I drew it in here. This could have been on the tight list. And this is, once again, why I just like stocks that are contracting. If volatility expands in the direction of your trade, you can see a nice move with minimal risk, right? Here's your risk, and right now it's up here. So you're talking, here's your risk, here is your reward. That's basically a 2-for-1, and it might not even be done yet, right? But you can always update your stop losses to break even, take partial profits, and mitigate risk as you see fit. Earnings is around the corner here, so I don't know what's going to happen there, right? But if you're in the trade, and you took this and you're up, and you're coming into, is it earnings? Like, when is earnings? Before 7:30. Okay, so earnings is coming up. You can go into the trade tab. You'll look at 7 days out. It's right about $1.50 expected move. That doesn't seem right at all. What am I missing here? That doesn't even seem like a crazy implied volatility. Maybe we'd have to check a little bit closer to the, whatever. It says about $1.50 expected move. So if you don't want to risk, $1.50 per share, you can potentially take partial off. You can raise your stop up and et cetera, and just kind of adjust from that point. But that doesn't seem like that much of a volatile earnings expected move by any means. So yeah. I guess it's a healthcare name. They're typically not not all of them at least are high beta. There's some that are just crazy insane high beta. PFE, CrowdStrike, the good old CrowdStrike. Okay, so queso. What are we gonna do here? Okay, CrowdStrike. Obviously, we've had some significant sell side off the back of the news that they pushed an update through and took down the world. Not literally, but seriously, it's pretty crazy just how impactful an update patch can be. I don't know if there's going to be more news to come from that. It just seems weird to me, people. And the very next day, Elon was like, yeah, we're removing off all of our systems. And like that alone, if that, the reason why that, it's not, because Elon Musk said it. The problem, the thing here with that is if any other CEO of any S&P 500 company, which the majority of S&P 500 companies, right, is CrowdStrike's business, it's like CRM, right? Salesforce, a lot of the S&P 500 companies, they use Salesforce. So if everyone ditches using their software, that ain't good. CrowdStrike, same situation here, right? So Elon says he's out, right? We'll see if that's actually true or not. That's what I heard. But if other companies follow, I mean, that's going to put the pressure and put the hurt on it. And he was, obviously vocal about it. It doesn't mean everyone has to be vocal about it. But yeah, we're selling off. We're getting continued sell side from that. Are we going to see a potential 5-10% bounce? Yeah, we will. Okay, we will. When? I don't know. Because right now it's catching a falling knife. And the chances are it's going to come either in like 2 minutes where it's just like boom, boom, and it's there. And we're like, boom, holy crap, it bounced and I missed it. Or it's going to be some sort of gap overnight. Oh, some news comes out and all of a sudden we just get this big gap up and it's like, oh, okay, there's the bounce, can't trade it. So you can go into the smaller time frames and you can get tactical, right? So price action, it's just drizzling off, okay? It is kind of getting tight here. It's below that declining 5-day moving average. You can see that if you look at the RSI, you do have positive divergence. So this is opening the door for a potential pop, right? I mean, this is not a small move, right? Just from here to here is 5.5% almost, right? 5.26%. That's like nothing. Like this could happen in, 40 minutes, like less, right? You look at this, right? This move from right here, this high just to down this low was, minus 3.5%. So it's a very high beta because it's very volatile from what's been happening in the news. If you're playing this, you just got to really, really hone in on them stops. Okay, and your position sizing. You don't need much of a position. So if you, like, for example, if you're like, hey, I think we're gonna get a bounce, you can go and look for potentially, if you're trade options, you can look at spreads where it mitigates that risk for you, right? That's one way. Or if you just buy the outright stock, you can just have a smaller position and then have a nice stop. Another way to do it is you can just go right into the options chain for calls, maybe look a little bit further out, whatever. You'd have to look at like, the deltas on them and see if it makes sense. I don't personally trade options, but if I were to on something like, if you're looking for a little bit of a bounce, unfortunately spreads, they cap the upside, but they also cap the downside. And that's what these tools are for. Options are really actually a risk management tool. That's why we have options. I know it doesn't seem like that with the rise in zero date and crazy YOLOing and memes and all that stuff, but really they are a risk management tool. Okay, that's CrowdStrike. NVIDIA. Oh, NVIDIA. Actually, let's take a look at the markets here before we get into NVIDIA. We'll take a look at Qs, see if that actually came back in or if it's holding strong. Hey, there it is. Yay. What do you know, people? We called it. We did it. We did it, people. We freaking did it. We closed above there, and that's what ignited us back into its weekly expected move. Another bounce within a downtrend, my friends. Okay, so that kind of changed the character there. If you managed to catch a little trade there, cool, right? And we still might have more upside. We might. Let's take a look at market net flow. Market net flow still holding that green convergence. The red line's kind of flattening. It's still above zero, but it is obviously much more bullish than it was when we started the stream. And that's what we were kind of looking for here, is the green convergence to come back and the red line to get below zero to trade around there, right? Below there would be a little bit better. So we're up 1.25% on the Qs after breaking through this swing high anchored volume weighted average price. I'm going to anchor one right to here and just see. Actually, look at that. It kind of just pinched between those two. Let me just remove this swing low. You can see price action pinched between this swing high and then the closing candle of yesterday's trading session. And once we broke through there, this is actually known. So in Brian Shannon's book, he calls this the VWAP pinch. Right? You take basically a high and a low, and price action's doodling between these two. And once you break through that, right? And this is just another way to look at what? Expansion, contraction, right? Another way to look at it. And it's an effective way to look at it, if I do say so myself. Let's take a look at some more of these names. NVIDIA. Okay. Let me tell you this right now. If NVIDIA starts turning around here and starts ripping back up to the highs of the trading session, I think Qs can definitely head higher. that would very, very well help out this situation here. I'm actually interested. Let me just take a look at Microsoft because that was one that I had my eye on. Yeah, it's up 2% on the trading session. Come on, people. Let's go. Everyone's calling for a stock market crash. But if you look at seasonality, we're matching the script. They can be right about a crash. But let's be real. Why are you calling for a crash down here when we were talking about a stall out in the markets over here? Let's be real. If you've been watching this, or watching the YouTube and watching this stuff, we have been right on point even on this specific day where we talked about this, these can work reversals. We looked at the weekly time frame in the Qs. We talked about this, potentially marking some sort of a top here for, coming into seasonality or whatever, and that can change, but we had continuation. The unfortunate thing is, it's hard to remember all this stuff because, there's sometimes a new episode every day and we kind of touch on multiple aspects. But we just been stalling out. Okay, where was I? And I honestly, dude, this thing, who knows what's going to happen here in the very near term. This thing is just all over the place. But I will say, we have a high, a low, a lower high, a higher low. Okay, so we're just really consolidating, getting tight here. Where was I? NVIDIA, that's where I was. I kind of went off script. NVIDIA. So if NVIDIA wants to find itself moving back up today, that can probably definitely help out a lot more. But right now, it's been kind of falling flat on its face today, on today's trading session. And it looks pretty weak, right? You get this bounce, right? And it got faded. It got this bounce and we faded hard. Now we're getting tight here. And, we've been faded. We got a bounce, we faded. We got a bounce, we faded, faded. Not the greatest look. So we need Tom Lee to start talking about NVIDIA right now. You know what I'm saying? We need people to start getting real bullish here. Okay, so yeah, we're still below that declining 5-day moving average. It's up on the trading session, right? But it's basically flat, let's be real. Up 60 basis points on the trading session, below that declining 5-day moving average. It's well off the lows. So yesterday it saw a nice move off the lows, which a lot of other names did not get to see that. For example, Microsoft. So it could be just consolidating, an inside trading day. Okay, cool, whatever. It is what it is. And then when I look at the chart of NVIDIA, you can see I would consider this a double top. It's a higher low, but I mean, I would consider it a double top. And, you break down the neckline. A measured move would be from this high to this midpoint, down. So yeah, could there be more downside? Obviously, it could be right around that gap fill. But if I go into the Semiconductors ETF, SMH, this is one that we talked about yesterday. And we just talked about how this is like a textbook double top, right? You have your double top, right? It overcut this high with a negative divergence. So that's already, bearish. But the double top gets confirmed when you break the neckline. And the neckline, if you measure a measured move, right, from this high to this neckline, this down, it actually came right into this prior area. And we're seeing a little bit of a bounce there. And a lot of the times you will see retests of the neckline. But even a retest of a neckline, right? Say if it does, I don't know if it's going to get up there or not, but even a retest of a neckline, where would that actually put us? The 50-day would start to flatten out. The 20-day would still be coming in. And this would just basically come right back up or flag or whatever. And it would look like now a back test of a breakdown. And it could potentially leg lower. I'm not calling for that, but that could very well be something to watch out for. Right? But right now we're just in the midst of volatility. That's what this says. Come on, NVIDIA. What are we doing? Is NVIDIA moving now? Do we make the call to Tom Lee? Who's a big bull on NVIDIA? I don't know if Tom Lee's a bull on NVIDIA. I was just saying that. Okay, let me read the chat here, see if I'm missing anything. On the 15-minute, is the Qs a bear pennant? I mean, kind of, yeah. Because I see what you're saying. So, I mean, that's kind of what we pointed out was with this lower highs, and then the higher lows. So I guess in a way, like you can say, it's kind of doing that, yeah. And it's in a bearish trend. Now, what would negate this is if we, tootle around here and we start breaking out like that. So. I mean, okay, so so we're up, right, up 1.26%, but where does that really put us? It puts us to where we were just a prior trading day ago. We're just trading inside, so we're literally. It sounds like it's a big day and all, but really it's actually a much smaller range than the prior day and the day before that. Actually, in fact, you can see over here we had strong days down in the Qs and we had a little up day, and everyone's like, woohoo! Okay, this looks just like that. What happened? Well, we came up a little bit more. Volumes dried up. And then we saw a break with big volume to the downside. The Qs did come into its daily expected move, and we basically tagged that to the T, and now we're just floating in at the daily expected move and the weekly expected move. Market net flow still holding a nice bullish convergence. The divergence here, it's holding still as well, but it's looks like it's getting a little smaller there. Thanks for the subscription to the YouTube channel there, both Shannon and D Kemp. And Tumuk for following there on Twitch. If you guys are watching the live stream here on YouTube and or Twitch, make sure to follow. You'll get notifications when I go live, but I also post stock market brief shows too as well. Qs just took the pre-market high. Am I bearish on anything? I mean, I shorted miners. And I mean, I was honestly on edge on this market while it was up at these highs anyway. You know, I go back to like semiconductors on like, go back to semiconductor, like a video on this day. It was either July 10th or July 11th. And we talked about, I think we actually, that's when we talked about shorting the S&P 500 through like SPXS or whatever. SOXS, I believe we talked about. So yeah, I mean, am I bearish right now? I think that we're seeing some bearish things take place because we're below a declining 5-day moving average and we're in negative gamma territory. So yeah, on that perspective, but am I gonna really short here? I preferred shorting prior. So I don't panic here. Now I look for opportunities and I'm just patient for those opportunities to come. Right? I mean, that's just kind of, when was the announcement? Like, and you start to get a real good feeling for the market when you watch it time and time again. But here, like July, what was this? July 14th. I think this was on a weekend or something like that. Here's the note in the Discord, right? July 14th. And I don't put much notes, so this was just kind of random here. I just finished posting a few charts that are on my radar for tomorrow. I plan to go live. That was, so 15th was a Monday. I want to remind everyone that this week we are at some key gamma levels. We have sizable options expiration, and there was significant news over the weekend. In times like these, it's incredibly important to not throw caution to the wind, stay focused on managing risk. I know it can be tempting to push limits. If you do, always have a plan for where to exit if things don't work out. Many trades have been successful in the last couple of weeks. The party's still going on for now, but that doesn't mean it's always big green candles. Things were getting pretty euphoric, and you know, I don't know when 714 was. Let's go back to this SPY. We'll look at 714. The day, 714. Okay, so 715. Wait, was 715 this day? Yeah, right here. Boom. So it was 714 the day prior, but then we opened up on 715. Looks cool in hindsight, but I mean, we were talking about the market stalling right here on the 26th. I think the video is titled The Great Stall of 2024. And it really had to do with just seasonality and some things that were happening from an intermarket perspective. We start ripping up higher and people are like, aha, it can never go down. Well, it went down. Hopefully it comes back and keeps going. For people that are long. I guess if you're short, then you don't want that to happen. Okay, so PLTR, let's go to Palantir. Oh, my video is down, thanks. Okay, I'm gonna talk without because it's overheating again. Awesome, I love it. Okie doke. Yeah, okay, cool. Okay, so Palantir. I mean, Palantir is coming into earnings. It's been strong. It's been a very volatile, choppy name with throwing people around. So if you're like a bull in this, I would say, yeah, position sizing is a must to be focused on because you have to be able to withstand some pretty wild swings in volatility. And we have earnings coming up around the corner. But overall, the chart is a few days separated from its high for the year. Let's go to the weekly time frame because maybe that'll help us a little bit more. And you can see here, there's been many times, right? So this is, we consolidated here. The moving averages got very tight. This is known as an accumulation phase. This is the markup phase. So we boost it up, we consolidated, right? Boom, boost it up, consolidated, boom, consolidated. And these are weekly candles. Boom, boost it up. You know, that's pretty significant, right? We built like somewhat of a base, one, two, three, three or four bases. And we're coming into these prior areas. So can it consolidate here and, doodle around a little bit more? Actually, that would be really bullish in my opinion, but you would have to be able to withstand that type of volatility. So for example, if I look at this here, I just draw a line across. Now earnings, I don't know what earnings is going to do, if it's going to be really bullish or bearish, but even if we came down and did this for a while, like that would shake out a lot of people and people would forget about the name because that's a long period of time, But if it did this and you look at the weekly time frame and it looks like this, that would be pretty darn bullish in my opinion for a breakout of that 30. So right now, yeah, we're just kind of in the midst of volatility as we head into obviously earnings. So if you are trying to get a little bit more tactical, I'd be looking for tighter consolidations, which is just not there quite yet. But yep, it looks like it's in a markup phase for right now. We'll see what earnings brings. AMD, let me clear those off. AMD, man, this thing got trashed. What a nice breakout over here, reminding me of the look of Tesla. And we saw a nice breakout, and we have earnings just around the corner here. And we got completely just smothered to the downside. So yeah, well, probably witness some sort of a bounce in the near future. Is it going to come before earnings? When is earnings? What is this? Earnings on 7/30. Is that Tuesday? I'll pull up Mara. Yeah. So if I go to the 15-minute time frame, yeah, just getting no relief here whatsoever, and it's in this declining 5-day. We do have somewhat of a positive. No, not really. Yeah, I think if you can play tactically a bounce in the near term, but yeah, it's just no love. No love. Okay, AMD, that was a. I guess we can pull up SMCI because that falls within that same category. SMCI broke down. So I was looking at this tight consolidation. We false broke out while we're going into negative gamma territory, and we had some continuation to the downside. So this was the trade risk that I was looking at. So this is one that didn't play out, right? So it looks like a breakout, nice consolidation, and it comes back in. So if you were just paying very close attention, this would be the risk, and your upside reward could have been good, but it broke down. So this was the risk. And if you let the risk get out of hand, the risk is now down here, okay? It's pulling into an inclining 200-day moving average, but it did make a significant break from this, bigger structure. So what I've seen in the past happen, you can see bounce backs, but sometimes you get follow through back to the downside. So it puts in what? If it bounces, it's just a higher low. Or sorry, a lower high, okay? So yeah, can we get a little bit of relief? I don't know what earnings is going to bring. That's around the corner here too. VKTX. VKTX. Clear this drawing set. Yeah, this thing's all over the place. So earnings, strong move. Boom, we gapped up. Now I wait to see if we consolidate and flag out. But right now, too unpredictable of a stock, right? I don't know if we talked about it over here. It broke out nice, got faded. I think I talked about this one a few times in other areas too, but yeah, right now I'd be waiting for the consolidation to take place. Let's take a quick look at the markets. S&P 500 up to around that 54.80. Not quite back to where it was at the high yesterday. Market net flow still holding a bullish divergence. Let's see if that can continue to spread that way and convergence start to grow would be nice. Qs are up 1.23% on the trading session. We're just trading in and around the weekly expected move after tagging that daily expected move. Yesterday, we saw a nice move up too, right? We saw that nice move, but it got completely faded at around 10 o'clock. Just so you know, I mean, we're seeing a similar move right now into 10 o'clock. This was, so right here was 8:45, 9 o'clock, 9:15, and so forth. This high printed at 10 o'clock. And then we faded on the day. So I don't know, are we going to get some more kind of, what do they call them? CTAs to come in and puke on us? Market net flow doesn't quite suggest that right now. Oh, shit. As it starts to uptick here. But it can change. Okay. Quick look at the markets. Quick look at the markets. Okay. Got my camera back on. Zumba. VKTX. DKNG. DKNG. Let's do DKNG. Yeah. So. The death cross. Earnings is around the corner here, so another one that I just be really caution off. I don't like initiating a new position into earnings like that, especially now that we've been selling off here, seeing a series of lower highs, lower lows. Trend is down. On a shorter term notice, the 5-day moving average, you know, we got above it, it came back down. Now it's starting to flatten out. We're seeing a higher low. That's kind of positive, and this is starting to flatten out here. So perhaps, I mean, it opens the door for a pop back up to and around, you know, 37.50 to 38.30. Always there as a potential opportunity, but I'd be paying attention to the swing lows as potential risk factors there, okay? Getting above the 5-day moving average and then pulling in and seeing if it puts in a higher low again. Maybe it tightens up and then offers up a little bit more risk, better risk to reward. But overall, we do have earnings just around the corner, and when we're just around the corner on earnings, we go into the trade tab, we see what the expected move looks like. It's a huge implied volatility, $4.53 expected move. So from where we currently are, I mean, holy moly, that could be, you know, up from where we currently stand. This is going to change as we get closer to the earnings date. That could be up back to $41, or we can ratchet down to this prior swing low over here. Then everyone would start to be saying, that's a head and shoulders pattern. Yeah, be careful on DKNG. I'd want to see what earnings brings. How much does an options market net flow cost? It's part of like TradyTix. I think it's like $70 a month, and it comes with a bunch of other stuff. If you're in the Discord's $9 a month. It doesn't give you, okay, so actually I'll just do it right now. So check this out. So I'll go into my TradyTix query channel, and I'll go, you type in a command, right? There's a bunch of different commands you can type in. So TR market, net flow market is one of them. And then it automatically, I just typed it in. Oops. Let me open in browser. Oh, there we go. Perfect. So I just typed it in, and it comes up with this chart. And you can see it shows a different signal here. It shows momentum. And right now, momentum's telling us that it's kind of fallen off. But you still see the market net flow here too. So you get an idea like, oh, it's here. But you can use this for the market net flow, but you can also use it for individual tickers names. Like, so if I wanted to look at the net flow for, you know, NVIDIA or whatever, like you can type that in too. I never do it for just SPY or Qs. If I'm looking at index products, I use specifically market net flow. Okay. Holy moly, man. Nice trade there, buddy. Dang. Okay, can you project a MU? Yeah, I'll look at MU here too. Which one did I just stop? So DKNG is where I stopped there. I did SMCI. I want to go into, yeah, that one's up. MU is almost here. Coin, it's right after coin. We'll go coin now. Okay. Earnings for coin is around the corner. This looks like it's just a larger base being built right here. I want to go into the weekly time frame. And this thing's holding up rather nice. You're clearly seeing a lot of volatility. And this right here kind of looks like Bitcoin. The chart of Bitcoin, right? This kind of choppiness in and around these areas. Right? If I look up, I'll look at Bitcoin futures. But yeah, you see very similar type kind of chopping around and all this stuff. And you know, if I look at coin, right, I like the look of this chart. It's a little kind of crazy right here, right? So I'd prefer to get tightened up, but we have earnings around the corner. So to see these whipsaws into earnings makes some sense to me. I don't want to initiate a new position. I'll be watching to see what happens after earnings. But overall, I mean, it looks like a pretty solid chart, solid base. The weekly time frame, right? It's building out a longer term base. And it would be real nice if this tightens up a little bit more. And Bitcoin starts to continue to move. And speaking of Bitcoin, we do have the Sailor to Shift tool flipped over to a buy signal the other day. It came with the caveat. Where's my chart? It came with a caveat because it went on such a strong move, and then we got the buy signal, which makes sense. So I said basically, like, I wouldn't be surprised for it to pull in a little bit, and at least digest where it came from, because it was just such a strong move, right? It was a strong move. We got the buy signal. You can see we got it, and then it came in down. It came from 68,000, which was where the buy signal was, down to 63,000, and since that point, we're basically back to where we were. So we had to pull back. We're still on the buy signal. We'll see if that changes. If we get another whipsaw, it's been whipsaw because we've been going sideways. Okay, let's look at MU. MU. Nice, Marmot. Strandley, I'm sorry to hear that. It's actually kind of typical, Strandley, when this happens. So he's saying that basically told somebody to buy the NVDA right after the split because it was more affordable, and of course, you know, it took a fall. This is actually pretty common. People think that when there's a split, it's really nothing fundamentally changes here. It's like, yeah, you can get some more shares or people buy into it. But the thing is, typically the market is a discounting mechanism. So they very commonly, the price ramps up into the split, right? Ramps up into that date for the anticipation of the split. And then after the split, all of a sudden it sells off. It's very common. It's not always the case, but it's a very common thing to see take place. Okay, so MU, this was the trade that I was looking at, and it got stopped out, I think the same day. It was the same day. So I was looking at this positive divergence building, and we saw this little breakout, and then it came back in, and I got stopped out. Since that point, we're still below a declining 5-day moving average. I'm going to clear this up. And it's kind of very similar to how NVIDIA looks, right? We're just getting quite pretty significant sell side. Very similar look to NVIDIA. So a lot of semiconductors got beat. So yeah, I think that the bounce opportunity is still here. I thought it was a lot cleaner look where I just pointed out here. So I took the risk there to here. I can't remember exactly where, but that was my risk, and I got out because it was stopped out. As it stands right now, what am I looking at? I mean, we're still like kind of going sideways, and the 5-day could be potentially flattening out. So I'm the kind of guy that would just probably just wait a little bit here. But waiting, you can miss moves. Waiting could benefit you. It could hurt you, right? It's all comes down to like what you plan on doing consistently. And I consistently try to wait for more of a bullish setup. And if it's not there, I don't approach it. With that said, yeah, I mean, we're seeing a little bit of a bounce today. Can we get a little bit more of a continued bounce? Yeah, very typical. Of course we can. Especially that if seasonality script holds, especially, right? So we can get any bounce, it has to be held as such, right? If we get a bounce on the daily time frame and it comes up, this is just a bounce within a shorter term downtrend, right? We have a declining 20-day. We have the 50-day rolling over. But it could be a bounce in a longer term uptrend because we have the 200-day below us. So this here requires us to be incredibly tactical, right? Ding, ding, ding. No surprise. Qs has continued to hold its move up. Hallelujah, people. We're getting that bounce, baby. Now, I will say cumulative net premiums for puts keeps climbing. That's annoying. That would be way nicer if this started coming off. Going back down. But Qs is making that run. 1.48% on the trading session. Let's take a look at the SPY. SPY is continuing to press through its daily expected move. Oh, yeah. Almost to the highs of yesterday's trading session, which we did run into a little gamma mishap level over there at that 5,500. It literally came to that level right on cue. If you watch that midday update on the prior trading session, you could say like up here, like would be kind of the zone. And man, I really, that's crazy. That was rare to have that kind of stuff happen where you like meet it to the penny. Very rare. Okay. Reverse split, sell off even faster. That's pretty funny. That's pretty good. Yeah, we can look at, we did look at NOC. We can look at LMT. So NOC is kind of going sideways, but it made a huge move on earnings. But for like the year to date and a little bit further, it's kind of going sideways. I got still some more names here that I wanted to touch on, right? People had asked. So that was MU. We have Mara and CLSK next. We got Mara. Let's go Mara. So remember, the buy, God, earnings, man, this earnings. So we talked about these crypto equities right here. Actually, it was this day specifically. And a lot of them were tightening up, and it was so funny because Bitcoin was kind of selling off. And that's why we talked about it. It was because the crypto equities didn't follow the script to Bitcoin. So our thought was, hey, if Bitcoin turns around here and starts going a buy signal, these things we might see a nice move. And sure enough, we did get a nice move in these. But now, since then, it was like 2 days, and it faded completely. All right, so right now, we do have an inclining 50-day, inclining 20, inclining 200. We have earnings around the corner. We have a buy signal on Bitcoin and stuff. So yeah, these can create potential opportunities. It's a very volatile name. I mean, geez, like just even today, from the low to the high, is 6%. All right, and it's one of the smaller candles. So you're talking one of the smallest range candles in the last 5 days is from the high to low 6% or low to high 6%. These are very high beta names, which means two things. One, you can get destroyed. Two, you can make good money. And I will also add, being that is the case, to reduce the fingernail biting and the anxiety and tension with high beta names, what you do is smaller positions, and or you can look into spreads. I trade equities. I don't trade the options. So I go smaller positions. Okay, so that's Mara. It's it's still holding up rather nicely here. CLSK was another one that we talked about on that brief. It was on this day here. We gapped up. We ripped up to the kind of this prior swing high, and honestly, it's just sideways chop. It's sideways chop. Right now, you can see it's kind of consolidating and flagging, but it's done this so many times. Are we going to break from this range? If you want to play for it back up to the top to potentially break out, yeah, you'd have a stop probably at the swing low or right under this 15, 14 marker, but just realize that a move from where we stand to down there is minus 14%. And a lot of the times you can see it snap down to the 200-day and then all of a sudden come back. And that right there, just to the 200-day, is 20%. So yeah, these require a strict regimen of risk management and position sizing. Overall, we're going sideways here. We're in a very tight sideways chop range. If Bitcoin wants to lift off, man, this thing could be such a nice mover. Look at this. Look, so you have, right, markets move between 4 stages. You have markup, accumulation, markup, distribution, decline. Okay, we definitely was a markup there. Distribution, definitely decline phase. This could be accumulation. This could be the markup, right? We got tight here. We broke out. Boom. We came back into a rising 40-week, 30-week. Boom. And now look at, it's been going sideways for a very long time. So sometimes to really mitigate the noise, come into the weekly time frame. It calms things down a little bit, if you want to call that calm. But look at where it came down to this week. It's at the 30-week average, and it's been holding there. And the 40-week is catching up. So as we've been going sideways, way above the 30 and 40-week, these things are starting to catch back up. And does that mean that we're, right? So it pulled in, these caught up, right? Boom, we saw it move. So are we in the midst of a potential, real big move here in something like CleanSpark? I don't know anything about this company, people, just so you know. I have zero idea about this company. I really don't. I know it's something to do with in the crypto space. But from an absolute perspective, right, you have your risk that's pretty clearly identified, and you have price action that's been tightening. So yeah, we might look at this years from now and be like, dude, that thing was the most, you can look in hindsight, like say if it does break out and start continuing to the upside, we'll look back in hindsight and be like, dude, that was like clear as day, right? It'll be like one of those things where like, yeah, it was very choppy, but it was also setting up very, very nicely on these weekly timeframes. And if it broke down in hindsight and we see it, we're like, yeah, but there was a really good risk to reward there. So I can understand why somebody would take it. So either way you look at it, something like this, like, right, ignore the name, right? I'm not saying like this is the greatest, time to buy or whatever, or time to sell or whatever the case is. I'm saying that when risk is very clearly identified and you take it, and even if you are wrong, right? You were not going to be wrong on this trade, right? The only way you're wrong is if you break your trade rules, okay? So even if it breaks down and you took a long position, it broke down and you got out, it still doesn't take away from it being a good setup, right? That's the thing about trading is you got to be okay with taking losing trades, and you got to be diligent with taking the losing trades before they get out of hand. And then when it comes to a winning trade, you got to just let it win. Let it win, right? You can take so many small losses, and the moment you get a winning trade, it changes everything fast. Like look at this risk. Small risk, right? We talked about that on the daily chart of Tesla. This was the trade idea, right? I can have all kinds of losing trades, and if I just catch one of these, there you go. That just made up for a lot of those small losers. Okay, so CleanSpark, yeah, we touched on that one. Wheat. I'm not a fan here of wheat. This thing is just continuing to break down. Commodities are, a little bit of an arch nemesis. Commodities trade very weird, very cyclical. Something could happen in a certain specific area, and I'll look at the technicals, but I don't understand it from that agriculture standpoint, from a cycle, from a cyclical point of view. And when I look at this, it looks like just a complete reverse on a lot of, not just wheat, but of various commodities too as well. So yeah, from a technical perspective, we just hit a new low for the year. Not really getting me excited about buying it. I'll bet we can be in the turn for a potential bounce. I wouldn't short down here. And if I am trying to play a tactical bounce, I feel like there's other areas to be a little bit more tactical in for bounces. But yeah, overall, let me look at the weekly time frame. Yeah, I mean, this reminds me of like UNG, right? Look at UNG. Like, I think we set up for a bounce in UNG. Look at, wow, cool. Okay, all right, I see it. So look at this. Yeah, we had this beautiful wedge pattern over here. Dude, oh my God, what is going on? Great wedge pattern, and this thing broke out to a declining 200-day moving average. It actually kind of matched, pretty well actually, technically speaking. But this thing is like, okay, we're moving up, and then we're back down, new lows. They call this the Widowmaker, natural gas, because it's just like incredibly volatile and incredibly hard to trade. All right, I'm going to put up the market net flow. I'm going to take a quick break and we'll come back because we do have a lot of tickers here. And if you wanted me to pull up any that we haven't yet, or maybe pull them up again, we'll drop them in the chat. I'm going to take a quick break, and I'm going to pull up the option market net flow. It's still holding bullish as it stands right now. S&P 500 near at around the highs of the trading session. Qs, it's right outside the daily expected move. We haven't actually seen this move pull back yet. So we were pretty spot on there once we broke that anchor VWAP. We saw a nice little bounce. But remember, it's a bounce in a downtrend, and it could be just, as it stands right now, it's a lower high, right? Until that changes, we'd have to get back above 468, okay? Okay, 468. So I'm going to put that up on screen. I'm going to take a quick break. I'll be right back. Scooby-Dooby-Doo. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back in the pilot seat. How's everyone doing today? Qs are now up 1.6%. Seeing that bounce, ladies and gentlemen, in tech. Well, everyone's calling for a crash. Crash and burn. Watch this thing all rip around, right? It's coming to that marker. What was it, 10 o'clock? Yeah, we saw that big rip yesterday into 10 o'clock or 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We're seeing the same thing happen. Hopefully a different outcome. I mean, unless if you're short, then I guess you'd want it to go down. But here's the thing, is like, yeah, this is starting to turn around. The divergence is there, the convergence is there. This is where you don't want to short it. You just don't want to do that, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just don't want to do that. You know, you don't want to fight market net flow, because if you do that consistently over time, you'll get caught up. Okay. Okay, we have some more names. Mara, CLSK, Wheat, SOX. SOX is semiconductors. We talked about that one kind of. Yeah, semiconductor index. We're getting a little bit of a bounce playing from that double top, that measured move. Still, it's broken and discombobulated, to say the least, on this break here. So yeah, we can see some violent moves right back up. But even if we get a violent move right back up, what would that look like? It could be just a bounce in a newly sustained downtrend. I mean, trends don't change like this, right? Trends, strong trends, they tops, for example, in markets, go back through history and look at tops. They don't just go down without a fight at all. At all. They're like, people thought this might be that's the top. No. What if this is part of the top? What if it's like this? And it just goes like that, and everyone then from this point is like, it's a head and shoulders. And then it goes straight up again and then breaks down. Like, that's literally how sometimes tops play out. Crazy, right? So right now we're pulling back. It's matching the script of seasonality. It is what it is. And we got to be careful. Still, right, we're getting some reprieve. A little bit of a bounce, but the bounce, once again, let me just into you. It's below a gamma flip line, which means buying into buying, selling into selling. We saw literally that yesterday, buying into buying, selling into selling. This is where volatility increases. Liquidity decreases. Swings, implied volatility, everything moves, go expand. Okay? So yeah, what we're seeing is a little bit of a bounce. It feels good, but we are below a 5-day moving average. This is the Qs. Below a 5-day moving average. In negative gamma territory. Okay. Give me a second here. I gotta check on something. Let me look at the Qs. I think I have a little day trade that I want to make sure it's all right. Qs actually took out that high. Wow. Wanted to see where it was compared to yesterday's high. So yesterday's high was right here. Still a few dollars off at that point. So really, or just literally, this is just an inside trading day. It's literally nothing. So we're up, yeah, a 1.57 on the Qs, and it's literally just an inside trading day. Could potentially lead to something more, but yeah, right now it's just an inside day. Okay, GILD. Guild. Earnings is around the corner. These are the type of setups that I do like. When you see a little bit of strong move and then it consolidates into a rising 20-day, turning a 50-day around, like those little moves right here, pretty clean. And then we got caught up at that 200-day. But overall, right, the 200-day is still declining. The shorter terms are turning up, and we're moving into earnings. Yeah, to see this come back in or consolidate or whatever happens on earnings, I don't know. But overall, like, I like how it's starting to set up. But I think there could be better names within this space that have a more clear picture of trend and that have a little bit better consolidations. Because right now it's just kind of straight up. So I wouldn't, if you're in the position and you played it from down here or played this little, consolidation here, I'd be looking to update stops so your winner doesn't become into a loser. This would be all about risk management at this point. I wouldn't short it and I wouldn't long it right specifically here either. It'd be more of a hold. Riven, Rivian, so back to that, right? We saw a strong move, and now look at this. Rivian's actually consolidating right here, perfectly. Like a little flag pattern. So great that earnings is right here, right? I just love that. But you do have some time leading into earnings. And, you know, we saw this, I don't know, inverse head and shoulders, maybe, I guess. We saw a breakout on, I assume, some sort of news. The 200-day is still declining, but the 20-day price came right into that. This actually might fall in the realm of a Holy Grail setup, now that I think about it. Let me look at Rivian. Give me a second here. Yo. Give me a second. Wicca. Chicka. Skibbity beep, skibbity bop, skibbity bing bing bong. Rickety rick, rickety roo. Choo. PU. Where's my chart? There it is. Okay. It is. Oh, wait, no. It is. Let me show you. Okay. Rivian. Okay, so this falls within the Holy Grail strategy, right? And what does that mean? It means that, now if you don't know what a Holy Grail setup is, it doesn't actually mean like there's a Holy Grail in trading. It was from a book called Street Smarts. I made a 60-second YouTube video explaining this specific setup and where it came from. So watch that. Just type in figuring out money, Holy Grail, or something like that. And then it'll be a YouTube short, 60-second video, goes over this very quickly. Okay. Price action is pulling back into an inclining 20 EMA. It tagged it, and we have an ADX that's above, I think it's 35 or 30. I can't remember exactly one rising, and it's pulling back slightly as this is coming in. So this right here is a pullback in a bullish trend. Volume's been drying up. So this is just a flag pattern. So how do you play this? You basically play, it might be actually technically active right now. I can't tell if today's high took out yesterday's high, but it's pretty much matching highs, basically 17 bucks. So if price action can cross above 17, that is your buy stop, right? You buy through 17. And then your stop loss would be right here at about just under 16. This would be this swing low. And you would play it into the prior swing high. And that right there, you know, you have about risking 1 to get maybe 2. And if you like the setup, if it does play out, you can potentially just update your stops as time progresses and it might go higher, right? So that's always a potential opportunity there. Yeah, Rivian's considered a Holy Grail setup right here. And yes, Holy Grail setups, they do break down sometimes. I'll give you an example of the last Holy Grail setup that we did actually trade and share. That was AMCS. Wait, no, AMSC? Yes, okay, here it is, AMSC. Okay, so this one was shared on Trade Ideas in the Patreon. This was the last Holy Grail setup, I believe it was, that we posted. Back in... Oh yeah, there it is. There it is, there's a setup here. It was July 2nd. Okay, so here is the Holy Grail setup where price action was flagging, right? And pulling back into the rising 20 EMA with, high ADX. So this setup right here, I mean, look at it. Look at that. And then this is what it was, right? It was actually right there. It was a higher quality. So pulled in, cracked above the high. So that's your entry. Your stop would be here and you would play it to here and you would either update your stop as time continues, you know, so you don't take a losing stop trade, but then it can sometimes continue to go higher. And this thing went from, I mean, 24 to 33. That's a big move. That happened to be a big move. And Rivian, right, it's kind of doing a similar situation. It's pulling back into that. We have earnings, right? But as it's pulling back, volume's drying up. So this, yeah, it falls within the category. Does that mean it's going to be a winner and you got to go press it because it's called the Holy Grail? No, because yeah, even still, right, you can take a bunch of little losers, right? But eventually you can catch one that does play out to the upside. So we'll see. Good call out on Rivian. All right. Yeah, MMM was a big move, yeah. Sorry, I gotta turn my camera thing off again. Yeah, 3M, man, what a big move on 3M. I think this one was on the tight list too. You know, it had earnings, and earnings is what blew it through the roof here. But I don't know, did we do an analysis on 3M? I think we did. I think we talked about it because it was holding up rather nicely up in this area. And then, yeah, this is just a monster move on 3M. So now, like, this is up, oh my God, it's up 20% on this company. That's crazy in a single day. So yeah, typically you get a bullish earnings gap like this. This right here is the epitome of a power earnings gap. So if we close up here and this is the bullish thing, yeah, I'd look for follow through for sure. Okay, so what I would like to see is, you know, close bullish like this. Even if it goes up a little bit more, whatever, I would look for the consolidation and then I would try to attack it. Okay, look at FedEx, right? So FedEx, we play down here. Okay, and then same thing goes. You have a big bullish earnings move. It consolidates. Boom, we broke out. And now what is it doing? It's consolidating again. So even this looks like it can come right back, try to retest these swing highs. And if it doesn't, you get out here. Right? Or here, or wherever you find most fit. Cool, huh? Cool stuff. Cool stuff, man. The white background is easier to see, FT. Interesting on the stock charts. So I will note that the Qs did just get a pretty small range candle here. Little small body. So we had some pretty authoritative size bodies. And now we have a little tiny indecision candle here. So is this, you know, telling us that, you know, we're going to pause out for a little bit? Is it going to come back in a little bit here and consolidate? It's a possibility. But we had just a little bit indecision right here on this last 15-minute candle. If we take a look at the market net flow, it's still very bullish. It's trending, right? So even with a small indecision candle, I wouldn't necessarily be like, yeah, I'm going to short here. I wouldn't do it because if it comes in and we still hold that convergence, we can easily just follow right back through. All right, CCL was up next on the list, and I'll look in the chat to see if there's any new ones that have been pulling up. So CCL, man, these cruise lines are very hard to trade. They set up and then they revert. They're very volatile, man. So I think on CCL and stuff like this, you have to go into the weekly time frames because that's like the only way of surviving these swings. And structure trades, when they're like such like craziness like this, I like to go to the weekly time frame. Right, because right now, like on the daily, it looked pretty wild, but here on the weekly, it's like it broke out of this larger wedge structure. We'll draw it like that, okay? Like that. Right. There. So you can see, we tightened up right here, we broke out, and now it's kind of just consolidating and pulling back in. So even if daily price action pulled back into like the 30 or 40 week, this could still be, you know, an overall consolidation of some sort. And you can really see it right here where we're seeing this low, a higher low. Maybe perhaps we do put in a higher low again, and it takes some time to set back up. So I like that look on the weekly time frame. On the daily time frame, it's like, man, like it's just choppy, right? So this was the pattern right there that we were just looking at. Right, it comes up to these prior highs, so 19, 20-ish range up in here where you got some supply. And once we get up there, man, it pushes right back down pretty hard. So I'd like to see it get back up. I'd like to see it tighten and firm back up and then try to approach it like that. If you are bullish, fundamentally speaking on something like CCL, I mean, this is just a pullback and you can look to buy the dips and structure into a position thinking that will break out at 20 eventually. It's really just your time frame is what matters here and getting out when your trade idea doesn't work. Hey, what's up, Juan? Yeah, CCL, it is exactly what you said, teasing. It's a teaser. All right, ECL. I don't know what that is. Ecolab. Oh, yeah, I've heard of this one. Yeah, this one, I mean, geez, this thing is a day separated from a new high on the year. It's very strong. I will note that it is getting pretty tight here in this kind of channel. This wedge pattern, which is fine. It doesn't mean that it has to break down because of that, but it's in a very bullish trend. It's a day separated. I would look to see some more consolidation and then just be aware that earnings is around the corner too. So I'd just be kind of on pause here. If you caught this move and you're in it, I'll just look into what the earnings expected move is. They're looking at about $13 $14. And if you're okay with risking that per share, cool. If you're not, then update your risk management parameters. But overall, it's holding up pretty nicely. Yeah. And strong talks typically get stronger, right? Okay. VST. We got some more names coming into the chat. We'll go over those momentarily. VST. I'd let this one just chill out. Yeah, it's not the cleanest setup right now. I would imagine that you're probably looking for some sort of a bounce. You'll probably get it. But just remember, like on this big day, right? You're like, I'll play for the bounce, and it bounce a little bit, then boom, right to the downside, right? So you play for the bounce, just treat it as such. It would be a bounce and a downtrend. Shorter term downtrend. And it's getting pretty extended on that move too. Yeah. So if it holds up in here and starts bouncing, I mean, perhaps like you can try to come retest this, and maybe it'd still be a lower high at that point. A little sketchy for me. Apple was on the list. Yeah, I mean, Apple, this AI hype, man, we just broke out in a fury. It consolidated nicely. I talked about going long it in around this flag. Somebody told me, well, I'm going to short it. Congratulations, you got your face ripped off. And I'm only saying that because they hella tried to troll me about it too. I should go bring up that comment. It's pretty funny. I'm like, okay, good luck, man. Good luck shorting it right there. Could have been right. I think he also said that he was going to short semis, right? Or like when semis pulled down too, and then they were like ripped up too. It's always at the wrong time, man. It's always at the wrong time. That's why I just don't like shorting as much as I do going long. Yeah, we'll look at SPY again. So yeah, Apple, it's a nice little pullback here as well, right? In an overall uptrend. I would just be patient, see if we reclaim that 5-day moving average, because right now in the short term, the very short term, the 5-day moving average, it's downtrend. The medium term, like the 50-day, the 200-day, it's flat to turning up here. So yeah, a bounce here in Apple in the near future. Oops. Sure. A lot of these names are just following the script, man. They're following the script of seasonality right now. That's why I'm saying, like, don't be shocked if we start to get a rip into August. Like, because everyone started getting very bearish, which is totally fine and totally understandable too. But once again, things don't just die. Things like they don't just go just dead out, right? Like, unless if there's some sort of black swan type event. But even then, like, you can still really see things change in the market. And I get that there's been more increase of volatility, but that's like that's known. Like, we knew that this was going to happen because we're below a declining 5-day moving average, because we're in negative gamma territory. All right, people. So this is the 10 o'clock hour, or 10 o'clock This is where we started turning around yesterday. It's funny because we did have that shooting star candle at the 10, and then we had the indecision candle here at this last 15-minute candle. So we're going to see a little bit come back into the daily expected move, digest. I mean, we just went, an hour and a half of basically straight up. So yeah, to see this consolidate and pull in might make sense. Maybe even back down to the weekly expected move. Or we'll take a look at market net flow. Yeah, it's waning a little bit here, but it's still bullish convergence. So we're still trending. Okay. Adobe doesn't really got anything trend-worthy to note. The earnings move right here had a nice little consolidation. We followed through, and now it's kind of just consolidating here. So maybe perhaps if we reclaim these, we could pop back up and retest the swing high. And if you are playing for that, I'd probably have a stop under here, and or the 50-day moving average. Like this would be the risk area right here, or maybe a little bit higher. This would be the risk, and you'd be playing it for up to here. That's like a 1-for-1. And then maybe potentially higher if it does continue. Or I'd track the 50-day as it goes up and then update my stop to mitigate the risk and make it a little bit smaller if we were interested in trading Adobe. All right, so that was quite a bit of names that we went over. Those were names from the chat. Let's see here. What else we got? We got VRTX, CELH. Okay, CELH. I think I went over VRTX. Sphere. Yeah, Sphere. What does NQ seasonality look like? I don't have the election chart in front of me, election year on that, but I do have this one, which is like looking at, I think, the last 5 years of seasonality. And you can see we pulled in, and this is kind of like what you see over here, but rather flat to neutral, then slightly up. And we're kind of pulling into that seasonal weakness. And then the election year seasonality for S&P 500 is really kind of matching that script quite nicely. Yeah, we'll go over BKNG. Gosh, this spell check is horrible. SPY, we'll go over SPY in a moment. BMY, oh yeah, BMY was one that was been beaten down. We talked about on a prior episode. We looked at names that were just like getting hammered, like big market cap names, and we're like, dude, there has to be some sort of relief here. So it'd be interesting to see. Oh, BMY actually reported. I don't know if they reported well or not, but being where they were, I would imagine we could see some sort of a gap higher. It's gonna be funny if it's like down 14%. We'll see. I'm taking a nice long walk after putting my take profit stop. Hey, good stuff. Yeah, Otter Plus. We'll go over SPY. VLTO. I think we looked at that one earlier today. VRTX. AI music. And within MMM, okay. Yeah, so the FT, the crown actually means that you subscribe through Prime. So if you have an Amazon Prime account and you're on Twitch, you can sub to the channel for free. You get like one free subscription a month. But what shows that you're subscribed is that little silver badge. It shows that for 2 months, you've been subscribed. And then it changes with time. Like each month. And then it kind of like a little bit higher it goes, it gets different. Like I think mine right now, I'll just type in test. Yeah, so I've been doing, I got started, yeah, that's 8 months. I think it might be 6 months, and it just turns this, and then there's like one at a year or something like that. Okay, so we're not too far off that 0-day, that 5,500 level. I'm gonna just update this on the 0-day gamma, and we'll relook at market net flow. So 5,500 is that call wall. So, and we don't know if traders are gonna reach out further. So this could be kind of more the toppy area. So 54, it's about 25 point range. So I'd say that this is probably the cap for the day, unless if something dramatic changes here. But I would say 5,500 to 5,525 is this area right here. Pretty similar setup to yesterday. Oops. So I'd say that that's kind of the red zone for the day. I'm just going to do it to the gamma. And that goes right up to the gamma flip line. Market net flow still supports bullishness. It is waning a little bit here. And the cumulative net premiums for puts have been picking up, which is kind of annoying. It would be way nicer if this thing was turning down. And we just get a full move, you know. And it's been a decent move. But the decent move is really just an inside trading day as well. So it is what it is, right? I mean, it's nothing that special. Okay. IMW, the Bollinger Bands are getting tighter. I believe it. Yeah, the price has been consolidating here. Wait, I just typed in BB. That's BlackBerry. Look at that. Accident. But still, BlackBerry is getting tight here. Volume's drying up. I meant to. I saw you type in that IWM is getting tight. The Bollinger Bands are getting tight. So I accidentally typed in BB here and just. It's pretty funny. Watch this just be a random one that got super tight, and then we'll just see this thing squeeze up like in the next couple of days. Oh, it's a sign. Yeah, IWM. Yeah, it's been consolidating, holding nicely here. So. Okay, let's take a look at some of these other names. So we had CELH on the radar here. CELH is getting a little bit of a bounce, but it's overall in a pretty strong downtrend. I've tried to trade this one a few times. Found little profits, got stopped out on others. But yeah, there's been just a lot of sell side on this. So yeah, I potentially see a bounce here in the near future with CELH, but you just got to be very aware that you'll be trying to catch a falling knife still. So manage your risk. The 5-day moving average, right? We got above it. It's still declining. It's pulling back in. The longer we trade in around this area, it can flatten out. We can potentially turn back up. That opens the door for that possibility of a change in short-term trend to see a little bit more of a continuation bounce. Sphere was a trade idea here. Sphere looked really good, and it doesn't always happen like this, but nice solid breakout, and price action since that point has been just going sideways. I like how it's consolidating. I would like it if it consolidated here more, and the 20-day catches up, and the 200 really starts turning back around. The 50-day starts picking up here too, because then it offers the opportunity for just another setup. So maybe a couple more weeks of sideways price action I'd actually quite appreciate. But overall, yeah, it's nice solid breakout continuation. Now we're consolidating that breakout. So I'd be looking for a breakout continuation of the next consolidation, and which is going on right now. Consolidation. BKNG, this one got clipped, man. Holy moly. Just also another one that just got slammed in a few trading sessions. We're seeing an inside day right now. We have earnings around the corner. It's an overall, longer term uptrend. And you can see here it's in a pretty clear channel. Whoa. Right? Pretty clear channel. Right? And it's coming to the lower edge of that channel. So if you look at the middle line, we broke that midline. If we come down to the lower channel, right? And we've done that before, right? We can potentially bounce back up. So it's in a bull channel, but it's seeing some volatility to the lower end of that. Okay, and the 200-day is still clearly inclining. So yeah, pretty volatile. I'd wait for things to tighten up, see how it goes from there. But overall, just pulling back in an overall bull channel. Asking about Deep Blue is asking about the gamma flip line. Give me 1 second here. We'll go over that in a moment here. So SPY. Okay, so SPY was SPY is making a nice move. So let's pull up the daily expected moves here. The daily expected moves for SPY, 543.58 was the upper level. We're outside of that as it stands in this current moment. Remember, price reversed yesterday, right? We bounced in an overall downtrend. We didn't make a new high yet, by the way, of yesterday. So this would still be considered a lower high. We'll see if that changes here very soon. The 2 standard deviation move is 548.75. So let me clone this out. So this was a 2 standard deviation move, which would be right up to and around the 5-day moving average. So if we get continued price action here, that would, one, break this high, which would be good, but that would be the 2 standard deviation move. And remember, if you're looking at like things in terms of, 1 standard deviation, right? 68% of the time, you have a higher probability of coming back in, of this range. But the 2 standard deviation move, we're talking like 94 to 95% of the time it closes within that range. So that means it would close underneath that, and you have about a 95% probability. Now that's not always the case. We've seen a 4 standard deviation move, and we see volatility upticking. Go back over to SPY and look at the current, see if anything's changed here. And we still have a $2.61 expected move on SPY. Sometimes that's a regular daily expected move, and we've already seen the macro reports come out, right? So yeah, we're getting a little bit of a bounce here. It's an inside trading day still, and it's a bounce in a downtrend. You might call this a double bottom if it breaks this high. If that's the case, if this is a double bottom, right? If this is the double bottom and you break this high, the measured move would bring us to and around 557.50. Okay? It doesn't mean today, but maybe into next week. You never know. And if that is the case, maybe it gets there, and it gives us enough time for the 5-day moving average to start to turn around. So, yeah, SPY. I mean, it's still in a downtrend. It's still in negative gamma territory. Right, here's the gamma flip line. Right, somebody asked about what is the gamma flip line. This tells us how really gamma. Okay, so first and foremost, gamma is the gas pedal, right, to volatility. And these levels, once you're at the level, price action could get pinned around it. But when you start breaking from the levels, you can see an acceleration of volatility. And really, when it comes to the gamma flip line, this tells us, looking at net gamma, which is, across the board of puts and calls throughout the S&P 500. However they source their individual calculation, I'm getting it from Gamma Labs. But below this line would mean you're in negative gamma territory. Above the line would mean you're in overall positive gamma territory. And it's typically a zone, right? And all you really need to know is this. What happens when you're above the line? What happens when you're below the line? That's really all you need to understand. You can go into the calculations. You can look at all the very hard math and stuff. I don't do that stuff. I don't necessarily need to know how to do that stuff because I'm not building out these platforms, right? I'm not building out the platforms, but what I want to know is, how do markets react when we're in negative gamma territory? How do the conditions of the market change when we're in positive gamma territory? And what I know is this: when you're in negative gamma territory, volatility increases, liquidity dries up. Volatility increases, liquidity dries up, which means what? It means you get much more severe moves in both directions. You get selling into selling, which we saw, buying into buying, which we've seen right now. Right? We saw that yesterday too, much more volatile. Now, when you're in positive gamma territory, when you're above that line, okay? When you're in positive gamma territory, how does the conditions change? When we substantially break from it to the upside, that's where volatility typically dies off. And I can show you this by looking at a time series of net gamma. And you can see this area right here, all these green bars from these dates, right, dates forward, these green bars was when we're in positive gamma territory. And it doesn't take like a rocket scientist like, okay, what was volatility doing in that time? I'm looking at VIX futures. What was volatility doing in kind of May to mid-July? May. Was it May 31st? What was it, May? I'm just gonna say, yeah, just beginning of, well, somewhere around. Let's just go beginning of May. We're just gonna count all that. The beginning of May. Okay, right here. Okay, so what was volatility doing at the beginning of May? Volatility was decreasing. Here in June 17th, we saw a little bit of an uptick in Oh, actually, no. Actually, I think that was potentially a contract roll. That could have been a contract roll. So I don't think that these were gap ups. I think these were just contract rolls. Or do I have these adjusted for contracts? I'm not 100% positive, but I'm pretty positive that that wasn't a gap up, that it was a contract roll. Adjusting, show extended highlight. Yeah, we had some contract changes in around those areas. So that could be what those are. Dang it, dude. Okay, give me a second, sorry. I don't like them on my screen. Okay, so during this time, right, from May to, what was it? July-ish, mid-July-ish. Mid-July is right here, okay? So from, again, May to mid-July. What was volatility doing when we were below the gamma flip line? Or sorry, above the gamma flip line. When it's green like this, it's above the gamma flip line. Volatility was decreasing. You see? And then we started to go below the gamma flip line July 18th. A little bit before then, so July 18th right here. Right? Remember, this, don't ignore the gap. And what's that been doing since? Volatility has increased. So the reason why I'm pointing this out is because that's why this line is so important. That's why this stupid little line here can give us so much information. But I add on another element. I like to use that 5-day moving average on the intermediate time frame just to tell us what the short-term trend is. But honestly, the most important aspect here is just how important these gamma levels actually are. If you aren't utilizing this in your analysis and you're wondering why your strategy works sometimes and all of a sudden doesn't, right? Many of the cases is because the conditions of the market changing and you don't know what to look at. How do I know it's changing? What do I know? You know? And by the way, when we're in negative gamma territory, support and resistant levels on your chart, they will get blown out. Time and time again. Every once in a while, you'll catch and be like, see, my support line. When you're in negative gamma territory, it's all about how the dealers are hedging. It's all about about order flow. It's all about order. It always is about order flow, right? Price. But you'll notice much more volatility when you're in that negative gamma territory. Okay, and I just proved it here, right? Just looking at, okay, is it actually telling the truth, right? When you're in negative gamma territory, does volatility decrease when you're in negative gamma territory? Yeah, it did, right? And we're looking at VIX futures. Okay, well, it increased. Okay, yeah, well, but we're below a gamma flip line. Okay, it's very common. So one thing that people do, like they short vol when it's high. Like I'm not much of. It's pretty common too. But if you go back into positive gamma territory to have a short on volatility coming in, it's a pretty common trade. I don't always recommend it because if something does happen, you can get your tail blown off. So I'm not much of a vol trader. Specifically, definitely not VIX futures. If any of you trade VIX futures in here, please tell me because you're a bigwig if that's actually the case. If you go in and you're trying to trade VIX futures, these things are gigantic, right? No, I doubt that highly, but I'm sure other people use other proxies and stuff like that. Do I provide gamma territory on the paid service? I give these gamma charts in the mornings typically. It's not part of the service, Rolando, but I have been doing that. Where I source it from is Gamma Labs. Gamma Labs is about $15 a month. It's not that expensive. I share it on my Discord with a bunch of other benefits. Which, oh, by the way, you can actually go into the query channel and you could look up gamma levels on individual stocks and stuff in the query channel. You know, you can go in there, like people are typing right now and pulling up all kinds of charts. And so forth. So you can do that, and those will give you some levels. That one's from TradyTix. I bought the entire TradyTix suite, which is not cheap, and I installed the bots there. That my thing's only $9 a month, or even if you buy the year, it's $7 a month. Ends up being $7. It's like $90 US dollars. All right, I know people are from other areas, but $7 US dollars. Okay. Yeah, somebody just typed in for Tesla, looking at net flow for Tesla, and there's all kinds of stuff you can pull up. Where was I with all of this? I kind of went off on a tangent there. We were looking at SPY. Let's look at BMY. Bristol Myers Squibbs. Take a look, man. There we go. Oh, it did. So, okay. So earnings, it did gap up. It's 9% on the trading session, almost 10%. Yeah, I'd just be patient. See how this one shapes up. I know some people probably took the trade when we talked about it. Don't know exactly when we talked about it. I think it was in around this area because of just how... This is a huge market cap name, people. Huge. This is a big company. And it's been just getting obliterated. Obliterated. And I'm thinking, I'm like to myself, dude, this thing has to see some relief in the near future. And we saw the positive divergence forming. We looked at other names, large market cap names that were making 52-week lows. We scanned for it. If you watch that episode, cool. And here's the bounce, right? It actually bounced prior to this, prior to earnings, tightened up, and then we saw some follow through today. Starbucks was on that list too. There was a lot of names on that list. And Starbucks, we talked about it on this positive divergence here. We saw a big bullish day, another big bullish day on big volume. And this right here was, some firm that came in and bought some, and we've consolidated from that point. I still think Starbucks, unfortunately, there's an earnings call around the corner, so I don't know what's going to happen here. But it's a pretty safe trade to hold the low. If you hold this low, the 71.55. We'll see what earnings does. Even Disney has been getting cracked like crazy. Disney earnings is coming around the corner. Oh yeah, Nike was another one, right? Nike was getting pounded. Saw a little bit of relief, but a couple weeks. Yeah, this is following through on a bearish earnings move. You get a couple weeks of downside action. I was hoping to see it maybe a little bit deeper into this like 60 to 68 range. Because, a long-term investment in something like this, like Nike ain't going anywhere. Yeah, can it go a little bit lower? Sure, obviously. But, man, they'll probably see some relief here soon. And specifically with Nike, coming April, the contract of the CEO, Donahue? I don't know. I forget his name. I think in April, his CEO contract, is up. So I don't know if they're going to, rehab him be as the CEO, or if they're going to look for somebody else. And if they do look for somebody else, I think that actually could potentially be quite beneficial, because this has been getting hammered. So we'll see how the market wants to react to something like that. S&P 500 is pulling into that 5,500 call wall here. Qs are still holding up. We're not getting that 10 o'clock turnaround yet. Although I probably just jinxed it. My bad. Okay. Alto. ALTO. What's ALTO? Let's pull it up. Alto Ingredients. Not familiar with this. So I'm just going to talk to it from a technical perspective. It is in a downtrend. But we did see some nice little consolidations and breakouts, and we're seeing another one right here into that rising 20-day, and the 50-day is still declining, but this little crossover is taking place. So, yeah, this is a little flag. I would say, yeah, if you're long it, your stop could be at this low and maybe play it to this high or, higher. But I don't like this type of price action. If I go to the minute time frame, unless if it's a large market cap name, but I don't like, that look. Not a huge fan. Dang camera. Okay, turn my camera off there. VRTX. Then we got Fortnite, FTNT. I think that's what it is. Yeah, VRTX. I believe the last time we talked about it was right here. And now it's doing its thing. I mean, this thing is just a beast. Almost hit to another new high. Yesterday we did. Today we're right there again. It's consolidating here in a very bullish context. Earnings around the corner. I don't necessarily like establishing a new position at highs, but this right here was the move. That right there to play it up. That was clean. So if you're into that, good. And you can always update your stops and then look to see what the earnings expected move is, which is roughly around $22. So it's not a small expected move for earnings. You know, it could be right back down. It could be right back up. You can play it from that point because earnings is literally, you know, August 1st. So coming up here. FTNT, I think that name saw some downside. Yeah, FTNT. It's, yeah, I don't like the setup here. I think, yeah, you can see a little bounce, but once we broke that 200-day, you can see that it's been holding as resistance, and we're below the 50-day. It crossed over, the 20 days declining. Not my favorite looking chart by any means, right? You get these like lower highs or kind of matching highs. It broke down and it's kind of doing that thing again here. So earnings will be telling. You guys see what earnings comes out and does. Fortnite? I can't. Fortinet? Can't pronounce it. Q's looking like a short. Maybe. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's pretty common to pull back into the daily expected move. Market net flow, let's see if anything's changed there. Still pretty bullish market net flow. We're up 1.5% here on the Qs, and yeah, it's coming in slightly here. Kind of stalled out at that 10 o'clock hour, just like it did. This was 10 o'clock there. This was 10 o'clock there. Yep, there's a little break to the downside, back to the daily expected move. Take a look at the SPY. Back to it. Isn't that crazy? It's like the same timing, man. The same timing. Same area too. And where did we come to? We came into and around that 5,500. And that 5,500 was that call wall. So we'll see here. We'll see if price can withstand it this time around. Well, yesterday, man, we broke from it and we just continued that move down. That'd be pretty wild. Right back down to the weekly expected move here. Let's pull up the more fractal time frame. Look at that move. Boom. That's some volatility, literally at the same time frame too. That's crazy. Look at these candles. Watch out. Holy moly. Talk about volatility. That just wiped out, 0.5% of the Qs almost. Do I look at cumulative delta? No, not really. I kind of just look at the gamma lines. I can see the reason why cumulative delta would actually come in handy. I guess when I have bookmap up, I can look at that. But I don't really trade or make any decisions off of it. I just keep an eye on those gamma levels for the most part. And I haven't really been day trading all too much recently. This is some huge range volatility. Like, look at that. This candle here, these are 1 minute candles. And it literally in 2 minutes, it wiped out 30, minutes of, more maybe. An hour and a half. That's a huge move in a very short period of time. It's crazy how it happened like roughly at the same time. Okay, when did this break last time? 10:11 Pacific Standard Time. What program is this? 10:33. Yep, buckle up. Buckle up, people. This is what a bounce and a downtrend looks like. I appreciate that, Deep Blue. Yep, careful out here. Take a look back at the Qs. The Qs are just in a moment's notice, back under the weekly expected move, back within the daily expected move, and we're pulling back into that anchored volume weighted average price in a matter of minutes. Wild, right? That does not look healthy. So we have a high, a lower high. This would be an established lower high. We have a high, a low, a higher low, and we'll see what this happens to be because right now it's still consolidating in a downtrend. Massive move. Holy moly. Did something happen? Was there news or something like that? Did something just occur? I don't have my news stuff. We do, let me see here. No, not that I know of. Nothing reported. Or did I miss something? I don't know. Q's now up to, it's just up 1% on the trading session, still doing an inside trading day, and we're pulling back into that volume weighted average price from this swing low. Let's actually anchor volume weighted average price here to this prior swing low. So you'd want it to really kind of hold this area, in and around this area. You can see even this swing low is kind of in that level too. So we'll see if we can get any reprieve, but man, careful. This is negative gamma territory, people. This is crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Okay. Holy macaronis. Let it be. Don't be tripping out right now. Just let it do its thing. Let's take a look at market net flow. I'm assuming that that's probably adjusted and changed. Yeah, it turned gray pretty much instantly when that happened. And that order, look at the size of those 0-date orders that came in right there too. They were pretty large, the largest ones of the trading session. Hurry, catch the knife. Sheesh. I mean, sometimes on these type of days where you get this, man, I wouldn't be shocked to see it move back up and just like all of a sudden you get a liquidity dump. I did find it interesting though that like we just looked at the times that people stepped in. So this like just this screams like CTAs, like just dumping. And if I go into like a CTA, like commodity trading advising chart, you can see that it was at highs, right? And they've been kind of dumping. So we're probably hitting some triggers. And for some reason, it's around that 10 o'clock hour, they dumped. 10:15. 10:15 was right here. Turn the algos back on. All right, now's the time. Okay. All right, any other specific names that you guys want me to pull up here while we're here? I didn't see the news, and no, I don't have Squawk. I got to get it back, and then maybe I can get some more signals here. But I was paying for the subscription for one of them, and it was like $500+ a month, and I was just like, I don't know if it's actually really worth it if I only go live once or twice a week. If I was more active, I think it'd be much more important. GSAT. I'll take a look at GSAT here. What is GSAT? Did we talk about GSAT? It looks familiar to what we talked about, but I don't know anything about this company. And these moves are kind of like crazy for me. Like I don't like trading that type of stuff, but I guess it's a pretty tight bid or ask. I will say that the 15-day, it's trying to get back above a 15 and it's rising. And then if I look at the daily, I mean, yeah, this thing is flagging. The 20-day picked up, the 50-day is curling over. So this, I mean, looks like it has the possibility to potentially break and maybe go test that 140. But I would just, have your stop down here and really manage that as time goes. I don't know when earnings is or what that's going to cause, but yeah, it's a nice little flag pattern over here. See if we can get some continuation, but just manage the stop at that swing low. All right, so Qs is pulled back into these anchor volume weighted average prices. It's seen a lot of volatility these last 15 minutes. We'll see if we get any, little snapback reprieve, and then go from there. But right now, I'd be just careful here, because that was pretty aggressive move. Very aggressive move in a very, very short amount of time. And it was a break on some big volume too. That was wild. XOM and Goog. XOM is holding up rather well here. It's above the rising 20-day. The 50-day is starting to flatten out. We've been putting in higher lows, have an inside trading day here. We talked about it when it was reaching into this box over here. And so far, we've been changing that trend with higher highs, higher lows. Now it's consolidating. So looks good right now. I would just have probably a stop at that swing low, right? If it breaks down that, then we'd have a lower high and a lower low in the shorter term. You have earnings around the corner too, so that's going to change the structure of things. And then Google, I'll pull up GOGL. This one's well off the lows today, which is nice because there was quite a bit of selling, and that's probably what really helped out. But you're seeing that break right here was pretty significant in Google, along with the Qs and stuff. We'll take a look at NVIDIA, see what's causing this. Yeah, NVIDIA, same thing. Pretty significant push to the downside there. Microsoft, not as prevalent, but still saw a little bit of that sell side there too. IWM, that got hit a little bit, but not by much. SPY, that was just a big move there in SPY. It's trying to slow down right now. And then Qs was the big one. We're seeing a little bit of a relief right now. That was wild, man. That was wild. It was a big move in just 2 minutes. That was definitely some big orders there. Big moves. GSAT is the direct competition, Starlink. Oh, interesting. BRKB. Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah, BRKB. Earnings too should be around the corner, but yeah, man, we just had a massive breakout, and now it's just consolidating here, flagging out, letting the averages catch up. Still looks pretty strong. If you wanted to play it as a flag to retouch these highs, maybe go back to 450, I would just have a stop there if you're doing it early and seeing how it consolidates. But yeah, today's an inside trading day. If you break above the high of today, that could be a good entry, and then your stop would be the swing low to play for a flag continuation. JPM and Apple. Yeah, we'll pull those up. So I'll stay on the banks right here. JPM. Yeah, these banks, man, they've been looking pretty strong. So JPM, this was the earnings move. I should just remove that. It's no longer necessary. Yeah, JPM, man, we just had a nice consolidation. We broke. We had earnings, right? And now we're just consolidating here in an uptrend too. So to retest these highs, go to 220. Yeah, probably in the cards. But you want to manage these stops at one of these swing lows. Apple also coming off those highs, really matching that script to seasonality too, just like all these Q names, right, or tech names. And we're starting to get some buyers stepping in, creating these lower daily wicks, and that's a positive sign. We do have, once again, earnings coming up on a lot of these names, and this is just an inside trading day. So what you do here is come tomorrow, right? So say if this high is still the high of the day and we break it come tomorrow, then you could put a stop under the low of today's trading session or the low of this swing low, and then see if we can catch a bounce up, and then just move your stop as time progresses to play for a potential bounce. But you'd want to see it actually show that strength first, or, break that high or break this high, one of those two. The 5-day moving average is still down and declining, and it's been respecting that too as well. Okay. Qs did see that little bit of a bounce back right into the weekly expected move. No shocker there, but man, that was a big sell-off in a couple of minutes. So I just be cautious on that. This is just a massive plop right there. Blup. That was dirty. Shabba-dabba-dabba-doo-wah. All right, I think we're gonna call the stream there. We went over a lot of different names, just analyzing this market. It's quite choppy. We saw a pretty extensive break right there, which happened to be like right on the timing of yesterday's kind of big break, which I just find to be very odd. This is what happens when we're in negative gamma territory. You got volatility increases, you got these big moves, so you got to continue to just obviously be patient, be careful here. We're trading around where we identified for the 0-date levels this morning, 5450 to 5500, trading within that range. As far as the day goes, if I pull up the S&P 500, we are still actually outside of the daily expected move, so we're just seeing a pullback into that area, and we're back within the weekly expected move at this current moment. Still below the declining 5-day moving average. The Qs were back at the weekly expected move to slightly under it, and we're holding into this anchor volume weighted average price level. But just be cautious in and around this level because tech has been getting some pretty significant moves to the downside when the sellers actually step in. I think that's where we're gonna call it quits for the day. FT, see you later, man. Juan, see you later. You're welcome for the Patreon recaps. If you guys aren't in the Patreon, you could be a paid subscriber or a free subscriber, and I've been posting midday market recaps. If I can't go live, I'll do like these midday market recaps. Thanks, Tony, for being here. Thanks, everybody. But we're going to call it quits right there. Thanks, Colby, the Absolute Beginner, Jimmy, the Rooster, Joe, Colby, PBL, Felipe, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. Be careful, be safe out there. Toodles. Bye, Pack. You're welcome, Reed. Glad to hear that, Reed. Thanks for following, Sean.